these are very status of plan. So let's simply lock it and close our parenthesis and simply hit enter. And voila, automatically the plans that are nearing its date of execution appears. So then why is it that the date of execution is not appearing, the days left is not appearing? Here, easy peasy, let's simply use the XLOOKUP to bring them all up. So use the XLOOKUP, the value we are looking for is this. Then within which lookup array? So this is actual lookup array, right? So we'll simply select the array. Then let's simply introduce the comma sign. So in the case that we are to find this very names or this very plan within this array, what do we want to appear? We would like for our date of execution and our days left. So we'll simply introduce or select this range. So here we are in this workbook where we are trying to track the progress of our project work. And the first thing we like to do is to know today's date. So we use the today function to cater for that. Simply type it and introduce today's function. Let's simply make some few edits over here. Okay, let's bolden it and center it now. So moving on, we would like to use this criteria here to know the current status of each and every of these subject matter. And so to introduce that, we would like to use the data validation. So we'll simply select this entire cells, move to the data group, then we'll move under the data tools group, we'll use the data validation, simply click on it. Then over here, instead of any value, we'll simply like a list, and our source will simply click on this up arrow button, simply select our criteria, hit the enter and hit it again. But here also we can simply input any message of our choice. We would like to leave it as blank, so we'll simply hit the enter. Then this drop down button will be made available where we can simply select any of this criteria as per the status of our project. Let's hide this so that people won't know what we are doing. So we'll simply hide it. So now what we like to do is to calculate for the days left for each and every of these subject matter as per the deadline given. So introduce the equal sign, simply select our deadline, then bring in the minus sign, then using the current date to know what is actually going on, we'll simply subtract it from the current date. And since the current date will be a constant, we'll use the F4K to lock both the column and the row. So we'll simply hit the enter. Oops, what is happening? Let's simply select our entire cells and let's go change the data type. As you can see, the data type is set to a date. Let's change it to a general format so that at least we'll get numbers. Wow, it seems we are way past our deadline, but no worries. Now, the next thing we would like to do is to set up a condition where per the status over here, our days left will automatically update for us. So what we'll do now is to simply move to the formula bar. Let's clear this formula over here. Let's simply clear it and introduce certain conditions. We would like to introduce some conditions. So to do that, we'll use the ifs function rather than the if function since we need multiple conditions. And the first condition we would like to introduce here is in case this very cell is equal to completed. And since we are typing a test, let's use the double quote. So if this very subject matter is set to completed, then what we want to appear is, so let's simply say we are done with this. Then the next logical test or the next criteria we want is if this very same cell or if this very status is set to yet to start as per the criteria that we've already set. Let's put it in the double quote, is yet to start, then what do we want to appear? Then over here, since we haven't really started, then let's do the maths. Let's simply subtract our deadline from our current date to know the actual days left. So we'll simply log our current date. Then the last criteria we want, or the last but one criteria, is if this very same cell is set to in progress. So let's introduce a double quote again. If it's set to in progress, so if it's in progress, then it means we are still working on it. So let's correct that. Sorry, let's correct that. Let's correct this. Let's space it. If it's set to in progress, then let's do the math and know the number of days left for us to complete it, or the number of days left for us to meet the deadline. Let's simply subtract it from our current date and lock it up again. Then the last criteria is, then again, if it's all blank, then let's simply leave it as blank. So we'll simply do that. If it's all blank, then let's simply leave it as blank. Let's close our parenthesis and simply hit the enter. And oops, what is happening over here? In the case that we set it to a completed, then that means what? It is done. If it is set to in progress, then our calculation is done for us. What about if it is set to yet to start? Then our math is done for us. But then again, we don't want it to be that in the case that this is blank, then this errors appear over here. So then what do we do? It seems we made a mistake in our formula. So what we will do is to simply clear this one. So let's simply first clear this here. So we'll simply clear it. And the criteria will be if this, right, is equal to a blank. If it's equal to a blank, then let's simply leave everything as blank and simply hit the enter now. And voila! Now, if it's blank, then the days left is blank. What about if it is set to completed? Then it is done. If it is set to in progress, then the calculation is done for us. So our formula is actually working, or our function is working. So let's simply get rid of this. Then now let's center this up. So now we are done with the status, we are done with our days left, and now let's introduce our remarks. And what do we want our remarks to do? So we want it to be, in the case that we are done, then let's simply put in a good job. In the case that we are not done, then it seems we are overdue or we are due soon. So here also, we'll introduce the if, the end, and the ifs function. So let's simply do that. I know it's a lot of functions, but let's simply do that. So the first function is if. Okay, like I said, in the case that this is blank, we would like to leave everything here as blank. So let's simply introduce that if end, right? So let's introduce the end function. So we are trying to say that if this very cell is equal to a blank, right? And if this very cell also is equal to a blank, then what do we want to appear? Then let's simply leave everything as blank, right? And if it is false, let's introduce the ifs function. If they are all false, then let's introduce the ifs function to cater for that. So what do we want to say? So the first logical test is if this very cell is equal to done. If it is equal to done, so let's give ourselves a pat on the shoulder. So if it's equal to done, then good job. And now let's set our second criteria. So in the case that this same cell is less than or equal to, so if it is less than or equal to 0, so it means we are not done. Then what we want to say is overdue. So that means we are way past our deadline and something needs to be done. So overdue, just as a reminder to us to work harder. And the next criteria is if this very cell is less than 10, if it is less than 10, then we want to remind ourselves that our project is, or our subject matter is due soon for submission. And the last criteria is if this very same cell, or if our days left is greater than 10, then what we want to do is, then we have more time, but at least let's work hard, or let's encourage ourselves. Let's work hard to meet our deadline. So let's simply close the parentheses twice since we've used a whole bunch of functions. We'll simply hit the enter. And what is happening? Is our function working? Is our function working? Let's try it and see. Let's simply introduce the completed. Yay! How about if we set it to in progress? Oops, there is something wrong. Let's simply drag our formula down, right? Okay, it's overdue. So it means it's less than or what? Equal to 0 since it's a minus. So what about if we say yet to start over here? Oops, it's still overdue. So now let's come to our submission where we know we still have some days left. So let's say we are yet to submit it. So it's due soon because our number of days is less than 10. So that means our functions and our formulas are working. So in the case you want to track the progress of your project, you can create a basic and simple tracker like this to track the progress of your project, to remind your group members that, wow, we need to hurry up because we are way past our deadline, or we are nearing our deadlines for the subject matter. And if in case it goes way beyond this, then you can add as many lists as you want to keep track of it. So for our office workers, we haven't completely forgotten about you. So let's say you're an administrator or a personal assistant and you want to be on top of your game, keeping track of the events or plans of the office, and even for your boss, then this tracker will help you out. So here included, we have the plan, the date of notice. That means the date that you were told about this, the date that this very particular plan will be executed, the days left for it to be executed, then the status of plan. So first and foremost, let's calculate for the days left. So we'll simply introduce the equal sign and simply select the date of execution, then subtract it from our current date. Oops, we haven't done for our current date. So let's simply do that as quickly as possible. So all that we need to do is to introduce the today function to cater for our current date. So let's simply hit enter. Then now let's move back to our days left. introduce the equal sign, simply subtract our date of execution from our days, our current date. And since our current date will be a constant throughout, let's simply lock it, hit the enter. Then oops, this is not how we want our format to be. So let's change our data type to a general format to at least give us these numbers. And voila, I think we are still on track. We have more days left and we have no deadlines that are past their days. So we are still on track and we are still on top of our game. So then what do we want to do over here? So here, let's introduce a condition, and the conditions are very simple. So let's simply introduce the if function. So simply use the if function to do that. So the first logical test is if in case the days left is less than or equal to, and since we want to be on top of our game, we would like to at least make room for a few number of days. So if it's less than or equal to 10 number of days, then if it's true, what do we want to do? If it's true, then let's simply say upcoming event. And if it's not true, let's simply say more time, close parenthesis, and simply hit enter. Sorry, let's simply correct this. It was a double quote rather than a single quote. So let's simply hit enter. Then voila, for the status of each and every plan, it seems we have more time left. So should we relax? I think so. Let's relax, let's chill out. So now we are done with this. Then also let's set another condition over here. Let's give this a bit of conditional formatting so that in case our number of days are reducing, we can at least see where the danger is coming from. So we'll simply click on this conditional formatting, go to the new rule, and let us use a formula to determine the rule. And what is the rule we want? So the rule we want is in case this very cell, so equal to if this very cell is, so let's not lock everything, let's simply lock only the column. So in case this cell is less than or equal to 10, then let's give it a format of, let's say, the red color, since danger has always been red. So let's give a fill color of red. Then let's change the font color to, let's say, white for easy identification. Let's simply hit OK and hit OK again. Then nothing is being done over here. Wow. Is our conditional formatting working? Okay, now let's change this date over here to see what is happening. Let's change our date to, let's say, the 8th August. So my date format is the month, the day, and the year. So let's simply, so 8th August, right? So sorry, August. Though let's simply set our date to, let's say, 25th, right? 25th August 2025. And let's simply hit enter. And oops, our function is really working, because as soon as we change the current date to near our date of execution, it has affected our days left and our status of plan has changed as per what our current date. So anytime the current date is updating, then that means our days left will update and also our status of plan will update. So let's simply change it back to the today function again and simply hit enter. Then again, like I said earlier, we can't simply be going through all the plan in case there are many plans to be talking about. So then again, let's introduce some functions to help us so that anytime a plan is nearing its deadline, it will automatically appear over here for us to know what is going on. So what we need reminding is in case a plan is upcoming. So we use the COUNTIF function to know the number of events that are upcoming. So we'll simply introduce the COUNTIF function. Is that right? Nope. So COUNTIF, we hit the tab. So the range we want to appear is this range. So we'll simply select the range. Then we'll simply hit the comma key and it is asking for the criteria. So the criteria is what if it is an upcoming event. So count if it is an upcoming event. So we'll simply do that. So upcoming event, close the quotes and simply close parenthesis and hit enter. For now, there is no upcoming event. So let's use the ampersand to add this test to our event notice. So notifications. Okay, so notifications. Let's close parenthesis and hit enter. So 0 notifications. So that means there is no upcoming event, right? So now let's go back here, change our date again. So let's change it to August. So August 25th, 2025, right? 2025, hit enter. Oops, it seems our formula didn't work. Why? Because if you have to look at the status here and this status, they don't necessarily match because an S is missing. So let's simply correct that. So let's simply type in the S, hit the enter now. Yay! So now we have two notifications coming up. That is the meeting with the board and meeting with the VIP. So our function or our formula is working for us in the case that what our current date is nearing our date of execution. So moving on, the next thing to do is, in the case that there are notifications over here, what is the notification signaling? So we would like to say if, okay, so let's introduce the if function over here. So we want to know what this notification is signaling. So if this very cell is greater than or equal to 1, it means there is a notification, right? And let's introduce the ampersand because we have given this a test over here. So if it is greater than or equal to 1 notifications or more, so let's introduce the notifications. So introduce that notifications. So let's correct our English. Let's simply put the S in brackets. Okay, we'll correct the previous one. So if this very cell is greater than or equal to 1 and the notifications, this very test, in case you don't introduce the test to match up to this, your formula here won't work. I tried it, so I'm correcting it. So if it is equal to 1, if it is greater than or equal to 1 or more notifications, so if it is true, let's simply give the status. Let's simply say upcoming events. And if it is not true, let's simply leave it as blank as we don't want anything to appear. So let's simply hit the enter key and see what will happen. As you can see, there is upcoming event because there are what? 2 notifications. Like I said, let's correct this. So let's simply put this also in the small brackets. So since one notifications, it's not a right English, so let's simply correct that. So moving on, we would like to do something over here. And what we would like to do is, in case a notification pops up over here, we would like for this to automatically update so that it reminds us of the plan that is due to be executed, the date that needs to be executed, and the days left for its execution. And so to do that, we'll introduce what we call the filter function. So let's simply do that. We'll use the filter function, and the array we want to appear is this array in case a condition is met. So let's simply introduce the comma sign and include. We would like to include this very status of plan, since in case it's upcoming, this is what will give us a notification. So if this very status is equal to an upcoming event over here, so that is why we created this upcoming event, so that we will link it to this our very status of plan. So let's simply lock it and close our parentheses and simply hit enter, and voila, automatically the plans that are nearing its date of execution appears. So then why is it that the date of execution is not appearing, the days left is not appearing? Here, easy peasy, let's simply use the XLOOKUP to bring them all up. So use the XLOOKUP, the value we are looking for is this, then within which lookup array. So this is actual lookup array, right? So we'll simply select the array, then let's simply introduce the comma sign. So in the case that we are to find this very names or this very plan within this array, what do we want to appear? We would like for our date of execution and our days left. So we'll simply introduce or select this range, and if they are not found, let's simply leave them all as blank since we don't want any errors to appear. So we'll simply hit the enter key, and voila, our date of execution and our days left will appear. But then again, there is a problem. So let's simply drag it down first. Yes, but then again, there is a problem, like I said earlier. What is the problem? Now, our date of execution is simply appearing as a number format. Let's change that. So we'll select the entire cells, move to our number group under the home tab, then change the general format to a short date, and ooh la la, everything now picks up. So now if you have to carefully compare our date of execution here or the board here to this board over here, it's the 30th of August 2025, same over here, the days left is 5, then over here also is the same thing. So now anytime we need reminding, all we need to do is open our tracker, and we don't need to go through each and every plan one by one to know which of the dates we need reminding of. All we need to do is to simply check this board over here, and this board will tell us, okay, we have 3 notifications or 1 notification popping up. Okay, meeting with the board, how many days left? 5 days. Okay, so I need to remind my boss, or there is more days left, so I need to relax. So this is how you can simply create a tracker to keep reminding yourself of these events. You can simply create some for a shop delivery. You can create some for even food delivery also. In case you would like for me to do a video about that also, you can always let me know in the comment section. Thank you.